Every time I'd go to the bathroom, things just weren't the same. That thought would just come stampeding back and wham! Into my head. And every time that wham would just get stronger and stronger. And soon, it wasn't just the bathroom that was causing it, but pretty much everything. I mean, they always say not to bottle your emotions up, and talking's the best therapy. Well, I guess I should have listened to that and expressed myself sooner, but if I'm completely honest, bottles had started to trigger this as well. But I can't change the past. So here we are. I'm going to let it out. As I was innocently relaxing in the bath, my eyes were suddenly drawn to the dangling light switch swinging gently like a pendulum before me. And soon, there was nothing I could do to peel my gaze away, hypnotized by the soft, swaying motion. It was only when I could take it no longer and my eyes fell into a hefty blink that when they reopened, like a newborn seeing for the very first time, everything fell into place. I was laying in the bath and looking down at the hanging switch. Now, in case you're confused, I'm not talking about your standard light switch. You know the ones, flick on, flick off, like a lazier Mr. Miyagi. I'm talking about those ones that you only ever get in bathrooms. Now, they're not in every bathroom. In fact, I've been informed, though I can't tell you how reliably, that they're actually only in homes built pre-2010. Now, if you're still looking at me in wide-eyed confusion, I'll keep explaining. They dangle from the ceiling from a kind of rope, thread thing. Like what I imagine dental floss for a giant might look like.
Ooh, number one recommended by dentists.
I'm not entirely sure what material that is, but it is perpetually discoloured and quite grim really when you get up close. And at the bottom is a little plastic thing, which I guess is a handle, but then again, who can really say for sure? I suppose they're a bit like those pulley flushes you get, but not a flush, a light switch. And instead of being over the toilet, they're situated by the door. I mean, in most cases. I haven't seen every single one of them in existence. Maybe I should try to. If I could seek them all out, maybe I could finally get to the bottom of it. No, that's not it. Wham! Great. Now not only do I have to worry about the bathroom light switch, I have the additional bathroom terror of avoiding being whammed just twice more. Unless I want George Michael bellowing, "Wake me up before you go-go" in my mirror to deal with. Why, in God's good name, are they so long? There is one theory I've managed to muster up to justify the need for this repulsive piece of long string that's decided to take the place of a normal light switch. Some people say that they're designed to keep water out of your electrics, and generally speaking, that seems like a fairly logical thing to do. I mean, unless you're plotting an elaborate murder or trying to win a lawsuit against your landlord, I can hardly imagine that many reasons you'd be celebrating a horrendous electric shock. does seem like a fairly logical train of thought. Answer me this. If these are the precautions that we're having to take to avoid bathroom electrocutions, why were they abandoned in 2010? I mean, has it really got that bad that now it's a lucky dip whether or not we die turning on and off the light switch when you wake up at 3:45 in the morning to go for a wee? I just can't get my head around why it's so long. Who needs it to be that long? It's not just like all-inclusive height long, because then all light switches would be below your hip. When I say long, I mean long. Now, my sources tell me that perhaps this was just fashion in the 70s. And I'd love to be more surprised by that, but maybe that's just it. Perhaps that's the answer I'm going to have to settle with. Maybe this is just another fashion mystery left for those of us in the decades to come to wrap our heads around. But it really frustrates me, because in all of its absurdity, it actually makes a little bit of sense. I mean, being honest, how the hell half of those things, those trends, actually became mainstream fashion is beyond me. The only person allowed to wear a collar that big is Harry Hill. And even his is higher than it is long. So somehow his comically large collar is actually better fashion than everything that all those people all those years ago looked at and went, yes. Now that is exactly the look we're going for. That can't be all there is to it. It just can't be. I have racked my brain for months trying to find the answer to this conundrum. And what has it led to? More questions. I have done unthinkable things in my bathroom, trying to fit together the pieces of this puzzle. I have lost sleep, skipped meals. I have even avoided bathrooms and anything with bathroom connotations for a full week, just to try and win myself some peace from this plague in my mind, but it will not cease. I've hurt those closest to me. They are afraid of what I've become. If they try and speak to me, it's just another far-fetched theory desperately attempting to clutch at any straw that will hold. Perhaps it's for easy access from the bathtub. Elated at the prospect of a new, plausible, possible answer, it was up the stairs, into the bathroom, then a leap into the bathtub. My heart was in my mouth. This was it. Had I finally found the answer? With bated breath, I leant from the tub, arm outstretched, barely able to watch as my hand flailed about helplessly. So far from the string it was so desperately trying to cling to. I withdrew my arm and sat, knees hugged into my chest, head buried in my knees, fully clothed in the bath. I had failed. Again. The whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, no one gets in the bath when it's dark without turning the light switch on. That would be ludicrous. And nobody's in the shower long enough for it to be light enough to get in without turning a light on. And then at some point during their wash, suddenly needs to turn the light on because it's dark outside. The only people I can think of that might do either of those things, quite honestly, are psychopaths.
Nice refreshing shower in the absolute pitch darkness. Bring it on. Who needs lights anyway when there's only darkness in my soul?
But why would they need to shower for so long that night falls outside?
Well, I've heard blood can take some time to get out from under your fingernails. And God, it takes even longer for the acid in the bathtub to get to work.
The whole thing is ridiculous. Hurt those closest to me. Every time I'd go to the bathroom, the whole thing is ridiculous.
I have racked my brain.
Every time I'd go to the bathroom, the whole thing is ridiculous.
I have racked my brain.
Every time I'd go to the bathroom, the whole thing is ridiculous.
For months, I have racked my brain.
Every time I'd go to the bathroom, the whole thing is ridiculous.
Number one recommended by doctor.
Even if it is the psychopaths doing this, I don't think they invented those handy long light switches specifically for these purposes. Although, if that is the case, then perhaps the long light switch is the mark of a psychopath's residence. Past or present, we'll never know, because I hardly doubt those overgrown pieces of dental floss have ever looked clean.
Ooh, number one recommended by doctor.
Perhaps they really are pointless in function, and the length doesn't mean anything at all. They're just the signature sign of the Psychopaths Official Club. Although, then that would mean there were a frightening amount of psychopaths around in the 70s. And if my sources are in fact reliable, then somehow post-2010 the world became completely free of them, and something tells me that's not quite true. You know what? It can't be the psychopaths. It just doesn't add up. They must have some other secret symbol, because this just doesn't make sense. First of all, the guy showering in the dark because it's as dark as his very soul doesn't need to turn the light on, let alone from the bathtub. He's literally just explained to you why he doesn't need that thing that we all call light. And the acid in the bath? Unless he's disintegrating himself in the bathtub, I can hardly think why he needs to reach the light switch from such a distance. But this... I should have thought of this before we went down this whole murder spree. those long light switches don't let water into the electrics. So how, I ask you, are they going to carry out their elaborate murder plots and win that lawsuit against their landlords? Wonderful. Now we're back exactly where we started. And you know what? I still don't think this whole sharing your thoughts to avoid it bottling up thing is really for me. Because I haven't got any answers. And now, not only am I constantly wary of uttering another wham into the bathroom mirror, but I am permanently haunted by the swinging taunts of those long switches. And as though that isn't enough, I will have a constant association of psychopaths with bathrooms. And I think we can all agree that acid and murder are two of the last things you want to be thinking about when you're naked and exposed in the bath.